don't understand why you wouldn't want a woman like me. I am successful, I'm rich, I can fight.
And you're also ugly, but you're not ready for that conversation.
Oh, well, what you bringing to the table? I am the table.
I would have never guessed you were the table because you're built more like the refrigerator. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, so happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And the thing that I'm most thankful for this year is all of you and all of the likes, commenting, and subscribing that you guys... I had to figure out a way to slip it in. So that's what I'm the most thankful for, is all the liking, commenting, and subscribing that you guys are going to do to get my channel to 100,000 subscribers, which is the goal. And ironically enough, on this episode, I wanted to talk about a clip that's going viral from one of the most ungrateful people in the history of stand-up comedy. And that would be Leslie Jones. Because if you didn't know, Leslie Jones just had a clip go viral of her on the Kelly Clarkson show, and her and Kelly Clarkson were talking about dating. And I know that I was joking about how Leslie Jones is ugly and she's built like a refrigerator, and both of those things are true. But at the same time, what you have to understand is Leslie Jones is the type of person that will take you from thinking she's beautiful to knowing that she's ugly. And I say this because she did it with me personally. We'll get to that a little bit later, but what I wanted to talk about right now and what we're going to get into is I saw Kelly Clarkson doing something that a lot of people do with women that are really rich or really successful or are people of color because they feel like they can't be honest with them. And I know that part of it is because it's Kelly's job as a talk show host to just kind of be chill and let the guest express themselves and say whatever they want to say. So I definitely do get that part of it. But the reason that Leslie is single isn't because she's built like a refrigerator and isn't because she's extremely unattractive. The reason that Leslie Jones is single is because nobody will ever be honest with her and tell her exactly what she needs to work on, and she will never be honest enough with herself to figure it out on her own. So while people like Leslie Jones, and when I say people, I do mean male and female, because we see this all the time, people acting like it's a problem with the rest of the world that they're single. And if their friends or their family were honest with them, they would be like, actually, you're the problem in this situation. And so when people feel like they're being kind with these people by not telling them the truth, you're not really being kind. What you're doing is ensuring that they will stay single and miserable for the rest of their lives. So let's go ahead and get into this clip.
You know, the one area I get so scared in is like, this is weird, but dating. I get really uncomfortable. No, I become an idiot. Like, I'm so comfortable in my skin, and then you go on a date, and I'm like, what the hell did I just say?
Yeah, especially now, and men.
Are you good?
Now, if you didn't hear her, she said, and men, you suck. Which, if you reach the age of 58, as Leslie Jones has, and you've been all over the world, and you haven't found a suitable companion, it definitely isn't all of them that suck. It's you that sucks. And I'm not one of those people that thinks that when a woman gets older, nobody's gonna want her. I'm just using Leslie because she's somebody that I have met before, I have had interactions with, and really, she's just a perfect example of how this kind of happens and how people will look to blame others rather than just accept it could be that Leslie Jones just hasn't been ready up until this point to meet her other person, or she's possibly still getting ready. And like I said, this goes for anybody, including myself. I have been engaged 5 times, never been married. So I'm not gonna sit here and act like everybody else is the problem. I realize that I am a huge part of the problem, if not the entire problem. But more on that in a bit.
Are you good at it?
I am not good at dating at all because I judge so hard.
Okay, we're gonna get real case specific here for a second, because if you do nothing but judge another person, even if it's nonverbal, they will even if it's subconscious, start to judge you back. And if it's a person like Leslie Jones and you feel like they're judging you, it's only going to take but a few seconds of them judging you before you get like, okay, why am I on a date with this linebacker looking woman anyway? I mean, she's not exactly easy on the eyes. But I thought I would take a chance. She might have a good personality. And now she's judging me? No, sir.
If you do certain things, I'd be like, I don't like you. If I look at your hand, I'd be like, your hand's too small. No.
And he'll be looking at her hands like, your hands are too big.
I don't like the way he grabbed his coffee. No.
Oh my God, I have a friend like you.
The balls on this chick. I mean, you would really think that Leslie Jones is hot the way she's out here judging. And some of you might think she's joking, but I kid you not when I say Leslie Jones is one of the most miserable people in stand-up comedy. So while she's delivering it like she's joking, this is really Leslie Jones.
I just be like, it'd be certain things I'd be like, yep, no, I don't like you.
Yeah.
No, you don't take baths. No.
You know,
no,
must have been a musician.
Yeah,
Sorry.
you know, it's just so crazy, especially now. Like, and I'm famous, right? You know, when you get famous and you get, and you're a woman and you're successful, the first thing they think is what? You're gay.
Leslie, everybody has thought you were gay all along. I met you long before you were famous. Here's the deal, you guys. We all would always joke about how Leslie Jones seemed like a lesbian. Her nickname was Big Les, and we used to joke and call her Big Lesbian. So I'm not really sure where she got this idea that it's only because she's famous that people think she's gay, when people have thought she's gay all along. I mean, come on, Les. Do we have no self-awareness at all?
Oh, you know what's so funny? I get that now that I'm not, now that I'm single. People
Really?
think, yeah. And I don't really care either way. I'm into men, but I don't really care what people think. But I get that.
I will say it. I love men.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
But I don't love a stupid man.
So you don't want to date somebody that's your intellectual equal. Got it. And I know a lot of logical people would think that you don't get as successful as Leslie Jones is without being smart. But you have to remember that Leslie Jones was a true DEI hire. If you guys don't remember what was going on when Leslie Jones got cast on SNL, Maya Rudolph had left SNL in 2007, and between 2007 and 2014, they hadn't had a black female on, so obviously that's 7 years. So people were complaining and saying that they needed representation of black females on SNL. So SNL did a cattle call basically looking specifically for a black female, and they ended up hiring Leslie Jones as a writer for SNL. And some girl, I don't remember the name, Sashir Zamata, that was the name, I just looked it up. Doesn't ring a bell for me. I don't know if any of you remember Sashir Zamata, but I do not. And so they were actively looking for black female cast members, and that's how they ended up taking Leslie Jones from the writer's room into actually being on the show. So it truly was a DEI situation on that one. And the reason I know all this is because I was living in LA at that time, and we were also excited for Leslie Jones because she was an LA comic. She had moved to New York to write for SNL, and everybody was excited about that. And then she got named cast member, and all of us celebrated that as well. Don't believe me about the part that they actively were looking for a black female on SNL? Google it.
Okay? And I done got to the point in my life where I really want what I want in my life because I have worked so hard for my peace. If you can't be with my peace, you can be with the door.
It's funny how a person as miserable as Leslie Jones would want someone to be with her peace when she's really never been peace. And I've watched recent interviews with her on different podcasts, or at least clips of them, and she's still the same Leslie Jones. I know sometimes people would be like, well, she might have grown quite a bit since you last talked to her, since you last seen her. No, she's pretty much the same person, acting the exact same way. And if you want to hear a little bit of background on why I say Leslie Jones isn't going to be anybody's piece and can't even be her own piece, I'll tell you a little bit about my history with Leslie Jones. I first saw Leslie Jones when I first got to LA and first started doing comedy. I was pretty brand new, and I happened to fall into the Comedy Store Belly Room, which is one of the rooms in the Comedy Store, a smaller room upstairs, Thursday night. And there's a show called Crack 'em Up Thursdays that's been going on for a long time. It's actually pretty legendary, predominantly black show, put on by black producers for a black audience. Leslie Jones went on and absolutely demolished that room. It was amazing to watch, and I was 100% dazzled. And if you've never seen Leslie's act is very much about being a strong, empowered woman. And boy, could she sell it, because she was so imposing and she was so legitimately funny. She's really good at stand-up. I know some people said that she got on their nerves on SNL. When she does actual stand-up, she is a very strong stand-up comedian. That's one thing I will definitely say about Leslie Jones. And so when I tell you that I was dazzled, that is no word of an exaggeration. I really did fall in love with Leslie Jones as a performer. So I followed her on social media, and I noticed that she was always depressed. And I did feel for her, because she would put up these posts where she was like, the industry just won't give me a shot. I just can't get my big break. Everybody else is getting all these things and I get passed over for everything. I know that I don't look like what they want me to look like. I know that I'm not what they usually think about. And at that time, you have to remember that the industry was very much the only way to get on. Social media was at its beginning. It isn't like now, where people can create their own thing on social media and launch themselves to wherever they want to be. At that time, it really did seem like the industry was the only way. And I felt for Leslie, because I knew that she really was that funny and that talented when it came to actually doing stand-up. I never would have guessed her for doing sketch, because she's not a particularly good actor. I don't know if you saw Ghostbusters, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I knew that she was a great stand-up, but she clearly wasn't what they were looking for. So I did feel bad for her when I would see those posts. And when I say she was depressed on these posts, there was one particular one where she kind of insinuated or implied that she might be ready to end it all. So I went ahead and sent her a message, a direct message, which I felt really awkward about, because I really didn't know her personally, but I had seen her around the Comedy Store, and I knew that she had seen me around the Comedy Store too. And I just sent like, Leslie, we all love you. We all think you're hilarious. We're all behind you. Keep your head up. Something will come through. And she did send me back a thank you. And then not too long after that, that was when she got hired to be a writer on Saturday Night Live. And then she got to be a cast member. So then the next thing you know, she gets cast for the reboot of Ghostbusters, the all-female reboot of Ghostbusters. And of course, when that happened, a lot of people started talking shit online, because they were like, we don't need an all-female reboot of Ghostbusters. And the way that they tried to market and sell Ghostbusters, the female reboot, was as this like feminist type thing. And that's when people were first starting to get tired of kind of the woke version of things, where it's like, you don't need to make a reboot. You could have just made a new movie and had an all-female cast in it. Like, nobody needed an all-female version of Ghostbusters. I personally was happy about it, just because I loved Leslie and I was excited that she was actually going to get a break and that she was going to be able to be on a summer blockbuster. So then Leslie jumps online and goes viral because she was complaining about the fact that basically there were no good men for her and that kind of thing. And still, I was like, okay, whatever, no big deal. Then she starts complaining about the fact that people are talking about the Ghostbusters reboot in a negative way. And I'm like, why is she even worried about that? This is just a part of what comes with this level of success. And I know that it was new to her, but at the same time, if you've been wanting this thing and you were so depressed and ready to end it all, or might have seemed like you were ready to end it all because you weren't getting your big break, and then you get your big break, why are you going to be worried about people talking about you once you get your big break? Who cares? You got your big break. And then the next thing you know, Milo Yiannopoulos, who was really big at that time, started making fun of Leslie Jones, and then his fans started making fun of her too. That's when Twitter was still Twitter. It isn't X like it is now. And she just really let it get to her. So then she started doing this thing where she was going after all of the trolls on Twitter and got Milo banned, which whatever with that. But at the same time, it was sort of like, Leslie, why are you wasting your time on this? And I remember at that time looking at some of the accounts that were trolling her that she actually mentioned. These people had like 45 followers, no joke. And here she is, an SNL cast member and getting ready to be in a summer blockbuster, literally shooting it and paying attention to tweets from people that had 45 followers. And yes, people were making fun of her and saying rude things, like somebody said she looked like a monkey. Well, actually, a couple of people said that she looked like a monkey. But if you're Leslie Jones, people have been saying that since you're a kid. You're really gonna let that bother you? I'd just be like, yeah, that's not new at all. That's like if somebody tells me that I'm afraid of magnets because I have all the piercings in my face. That's something people have said for a long time. Or if people said something about me and plastic surgery, why am I gonna act like that's a new thing? Even if I were new to that level of success, I still would be like, yeah, my whole life has prepared me for this because I've spent so much of my life having people say these kinds of things. Why would I let it bother me now? And I thought Leslie should have taken that same attitude, but I still didn't really say anything. So then it came down to nobody had offered to make her dress. And she remembered all the people that hadn't offered to make her dress. She did an appearance, I think it was The View, but where she was mentioning all the brands that had chosen not to make her dress. But when she was making that TV appearance, it was after somebody had already stepped in and said that they would make her dress. So they were like, so tell us who's making her dress. And she was like, it's Carano. And then they were like, Carano? You mean Siriano? And she's like, that's right, it's Siriano. And it may seem like a small thing to you, but to me it seemed like a really big thing. If it was that big of a deal, you should definitely remember the person that actually said that they were going to do it, and I don't care about the excuses, especially if you're making a TV appearance. And so one day, one of our mutual friends posted something on Facebook about how racist everything is, and that's the reason people don't want to make Leslie Jones's dress. She's black. And I was just like, no, it's probably just because Leslie Jones is extremely tall and not the traditional model size, and that's not really who they designed for, and that's been a thing in the fashion world forever, and that's something that everybody just knows. And so I wouldn't necessarily just chalk it up to racism. And so of course that friend, because everything is about race for them, got very upset with me. And then I said, hey, why don't you tell Leslie that she's beginning to seem a little bit ungrateful now? Like, she's always complaining about something. And so I went through it and I was like, first it was dating, then it was Milo, then it was Ghostbusters, then it's the dress. And I was like, it can't always be something wrong, especially when you're living a life that a lot of people would like to live. First, she was unhappy because she didn't have success, and now that she has success, she's still unhappy. And to her real fans, because like I told you guys, I really did consider myself to be one of her real fans, and this person was a closer friend to Leslie than I was like, to her real fans, she's just seeming like she's a little bit ungrateful. And so that friend started trying to argue with me and telling me how racist I was and stuff like that. And then she just went ahead and tagged Leslie Jones and it was like, why don't you just tell her yourself? And I thought that was kind of dirty pull of my friend because she knew that Leslie Jones wasn't going to handle it well. Leslie Jones does not deal well with criticism of any type. And so Leslie Jones jumped on and she was like, wow, Ty, ungrateful. I sound ungrateful. I can't believe you would say that type of thing, Ty. After all those years when you would ask me to take you on the road with me and ask me for favors, I was like, we never had that relationship. And then Leslie immediately blocked me. And then she got me blackballed from the world famous Comedy Store in West Hollywood, California. But really, I didn't care that she had tagged Leslie in that because I felt like that was something that Leslie needed to hear anyway. Of course, she didn't take it well. And like I said, I knew she wasn't going to take it well. But that's not really on me. But it does make the point that I was telling you guys about when it comes to being somebody's piece. Leslie will never be that because if you can't be your own piece when you're at your most successful, when the entire world is all about you, then you're not going to be able to be anybody else's piece at any other point in their life unless something really big and dramatic happens. And we're not going to even talk about the time that she said a major hotel was racist because she didn't think that they treated her the way that she should have been treated. And then mysteriously that got dropped and nobody ever talked about it again, which tells you that that probably wasn't the case, and it was probably Leslie just throwing a bit of a tantrum, because Leslie does think that everybody's supposed to treat her like a superstar, even though that's not what she's ever been. She has definitely had a height to her career, but she's never been what you could call an actual superstar. She was always an up-and-comer, and then just kind of fizzled and ended up doing Supermarket Sweep.
Yeah.
If you, and I'm really like, I think I've been by myself so long that, like, first of all, I hate the term feminine and masculine energy.
Of course you do. You're always getting called out for masculine energy, and very few men want to be with a woman that is all masculine energy.
I hate that term so much.
I think we have both. Like we all have all of that.
I freaking hate it.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in your masculine area. Well, why don't you get in yours?
And again, she thinks she's being cute, but if you've already got the masculine covered, then you don't need a man. And that's the way that most men are going to see it. Most men don't want to compete with you for the spot of the masculine energy in a relationship. If you've got it covered, don't be surprised if a man feels like you don't need him and goes somewhere else.
Find it. And I think we have both.
I'm sick of it. I'm sick of men telling me, oh, well, you know, you hardcore. Yes, I am.
And that's what lets you know she won't even listen to men when they're telling her what the problem is. Like, just right there, she mimics some of the men she's been with, and she's like, well, you're too hardcore. Yes! Okay, you think that's a good thing? You think anybody wants you to shout at them that way? And I know this is an exaggerated version, but this is definitely the kind of energy that Leslie Jones will give off. And most men, if they're telling you you're hardcore and they're saying it in a negative way or as a complaint, it's because they just want someone to chill and relax with. And that's what a lot of men want, is somebody to come home to and truly be their peace. And I've had this situation happen with other people, situations where I've been too much and I realized looking back on it that I was constantly in a state of chaos and making people not necessarily want to be with me, even if they were attracted to me, even if they did like me at the beginning. I kind of pushed them away by being so negative and so caught up in things that didn't matter, like the things I mentioned with Leslie Jones in some cases, where things were really going well, but I just kept looking for what was wrong in my life. And that was a flaw I had. And then more recently, I had it happen to me with somebody that I was very physically attracted to, and I had started texting with them back and forth. And through text, they would slip in some negative things that were happening in their life, but it wasn't really a big deal. It just seemed like things that kind of happen in life. And then I got on the phone with them for the first time, and everything was wrong. They were that kind of person. Like, this person said this, and this bitch said that, and this person did this, and I can't stand this person. And it was so negative that by the end of the phone call, I honestly felt like my head was spinning. And I was like, why did I even call that person? I thought we were going to have a nice, pleasant, sweet, maybe even cute conversation. And instead, I just got hit with all the, and I was like, I don't even know this person. This was my first time talking to them on the phone. And in my head, I thought to myself, I could never come home to that. I would never be like, this is my person. And I think I may have texted with them once or twice after that, but then I just let it fizzle because I was like, that's not gonna work. And I think that's what a lot of people like Leslie miss too, is sometimes you're just so wound up that nobody's gonna wanna be with that kind of energy. And so you're trying to make it seem like guys suck and they're just not understanding you. And it's like, maybe you're not understanding them and they just feel like, okay, well, I'm not going to waste my time.
Can you handle it?
And Kelly Clarkson is the typical bad influence friend. Can you handle it? Yes, in most cases, guys can handle it. They just don't want to. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Like when you hear women say that, and you'll hear gay men say it too, especially the more effeminate ones where they're like, no man can handle me. Men can't handle me. I'm too much. It's like, no, men can handle you. They just don't want to. And when it comes to that, in a lot of cases, it doesn't even matter what you look like. I dated one guy that had been a model before, and this one was not too long ago. It was just we went on a couple of dates and hung out a couple of times in person. But he was just such a headache and wanted to always argue on some level with me about things that didn't matter, and another one that I barely knew. And I was just like, yeah, this isn't going to work at all. So when it comes to that part, and people are like, well, you couldn't handle me. It's like, nobody wants to handle you. That's a young man's game right there. Maybe when they're in their 20s or their teens, people would put up with that. Like I know when I was younger, I had these big dramatic relationships. But once you reach a certain age, you're just like, yeah, I don't want to put up with any of that.
Oh, well, yeah. What you bringing to the table? I am the table.
There's that line again. And that takes us right back to, if you got it covered, you don't need a man. Don't complain about not being able to date or not being able to find anybody when you're making it very clear that you've got it all handled. So if you've got it all handled, you don't need anybody, and shut up. And the audience is really hyping her up, and she's sitting there acting like she's proud of herself. And at the end of the day, she's going to go home and she's going to be sad and lonely. And again, I don't blame the audience because I know that they're looking at this as a comedic performance and just an exaggeration of a person. But it really is a good representation of kind of the way a lot of people end up screwing themselves, and the people around them end up screwing them too, is because they'll act like that and they'll put on this bravado like they're so proud of themselves, but really they're not happy that they're single. They're not happy that they're by themselves. Like one of the tweets Leslie put out forever ago was that she felt like she was going to die alone, and that very well may happen. And it's because people will hype this behavior instead of being like, no, actually you should probably consider compromising a little bit if you want to be in a relationship, or if you want someone to take you seriously in a relationship way, then you have to compromise to a certain level. You just can't be the I'm a bad bitch and I got it all covered and I got me and you're so hardcore. I know I'm hardcore and where's your masculine energy? And it's like, okay, well, you know, keep at it, I guess.
Because I don't understand why you wouldn't want a woman like me. I am successful, I'm rich, I can fight.
And those are all the things that a woman wants in a man. You're not going to impress a man with any of those things. A man doesn't care if you're rich, a man doesn't care if you're successful, and a man definitely doesn't want you to fight. And especially if you think you can fight guys, because that's just going to be a lot of problems for him, because he's the one that's going to end up getting in the fights when you get a little too mouthy, because at the end of the day, you are still a woman. Yes, you may be a bigger woman, but you are still a woman. So if you're with a man and your mouth is basically writing checks that your ass can't cash, your man's going to have to step in and be a co-signer. And that's probably going to be more headache than he wants too. And if you guys ever get a chance, check out my friend Leonarda Joni. She has a channel as well. And she talks about a lot of this stuff from the woman's point of view and what it is men want. And I could not be in more agreement with anybody on the way these dynamics work. And like I said, I know some people will be like, well, you're a gay man. What would you know about male-female relationships? Well, from a third-party perspective, I've seen a lot and I'm able to be unbiased when I look at them. And I'll definitely do a video at some point where I talk about the man side of it too, if I haven't already. I know I talk about a lot of stuff, but there are certain things that I'm still getting around to. Like this is the first video I've done where I actually talk about some of the things that I noticed that women are doing in dating at certain points. But also, like I said, I think this one is less about women for me and more about people like Leslie Jones that want to put on the I've got this all covered, but really they're sad and they're lonely and they would like to have somebody come along, but it's just nobody's ever honest enough with them and they're not honest enough with themselves to figure out why it is they're repelling a person rather than attracting one.
Like, it's not gonna be you, like if somebody attack us in the parking lot, I'm gonna be like, go get the car while I handle these 3 thugs.
And that part was obviously a joke. But if you ask me, when it comes to relationships, also a big part of it is asking yourself if you really want it or if you just want it because you think that it's something that everybody should have, which is something that I've had to come to terms with myself more recently when I've been thinking about relationships and getting out there and dating again. And I'm like, do I really want to be with somebody right now? Or have I just been told my entire life that you are supposed to be with somebody? And when I say be told my entire life, my parents haven't necessarily pushed me towards that, but kind of all of society makes us think that. And I do like watching rom-coms occasionally, and I like a good love story, and I do like when I have somebody that I really do vibe with, as the children would say. But I've also gotten to the point where I realize that sometimes I'll vibe with someone for a little while and then I'll be like, okay, this feels sort of like a mistake and I'm not really interested in it anymore. And that's maybe because sometimes I jump into things a little bit faster than I should, because I think that there is an expectation to be in a relationship. There is an expectation to find somebody, and that's what a lot of people consider to be healthy. But I also now, at the age that I'm at currently, do feel like there is something to be said for just being by yourself if you feel like you're not really ready to make the sacrifices that come with the relationship, or if you feel like it's just not really possible for you to mold to somebody else because what you're doing is kind of a solo mission right now. And you can worry about that or not worry about that later, but it doesn't have to be at the top of your mind, and it doesn't have to be something that you feel any particular way about if it's not your time to be in that situation. And it might be something like that with Leslie Jones as well. It might be the kind of situation where she does things, even if it's subconsciously, to sabotage things before they can even get started, because she either knows she's not ready, or she may be a person like me and feel like that may not in the end be necessary for me, and I feel like I'm good by myself right now. But anyway, that's where I'm at on it. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you want to see a video about Lily Tino responding to Jeffree Star, click the video on your screen. Other than that, as always, thank you for watching. This has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.